Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with this week's guest, but as always, we want to give a shout out to my sponsors. Now, these are all companies that I used when I was an athletic director. They're all great companies, and I really recommend you check them out. So take 3 minutes, that's all it is. Listen to our shout outs, then listen to our interview, and then go and visit these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to thank our good friends at Sideline Interactive indoor score tables and video boards. Go to their website. You can schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. You've heard me say before, one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that live web demo today. We also want to say thanks to our friends at Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Student athletes love the videos, and our parents love the streaming, but there's a lot more. Go to huddle.com to find out all the great things that they can do for you. Huddle.com. We also want to say thanks to Snap Mobile, particularly Snap Raise. If you've ever used a fundraiser for weeks and then been disappointed in the results, those days are over. Go to snapraise.com. We used it at our school with great success, and so will you. Check out all their other great platforms, but if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it, and it's Snap Raise. We also want to say thank you to Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform you're going to use every single day, whether it's scheduling, rosters, or results. Their athletic eligibility and clearance platform alone is a game changer. Go to homecampus.com. Don't forget to mention the podcast and let them help your school. We also want to say thank you to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and let their team turn you into a social media marketing guru. Um, whether it's a simple social media post or an entire newsletter that's going to showcase all the great things your program's doing, the team at Gipper is going to have you up and running in no time. It's professional graphic design made easy. Go to Gipper.com for more information. We also want to say thank you to um, Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Um, at my school, we use surveys for everything, for student athletes, for coaches, even for parents. And the information that came back was almost always over the top positive. I'm talking 98%. We still got to hear from those squeaky wheel parents, but the surveys allowed us to address their concerns, keep them from turning into something big, and uh, get them hopefully won over to that 98% approval rating. Um, Go to athleticsurveys.com. Let them create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. We also want to say thank you to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com and take a look at their interactive touchscreen video consoles. I'm telling you, if you put one of their units in your gym lobby or your main school hallway, it's going to be like a magnet for kids, for coaches. How about sponsors? The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check them out today. We want to thank our friends at Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. My assistant AD, along with thousands of others, got their masters through the Ohio program, and it was a great experience. Um, it's very affordable, just 20 months, totally online. And the Ohio program also allows you to complete 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Go to Ohio University and check out their online masters in athletic administration. And we want to say thank you to Hometown. Hometown's changing the game for schools and organizations with their solutions that include, oh, by the way, digital ticketing. They're still the number one provider for schools and colleges. But how about fee-free fundraising or athletic website construction? You really got to see their website to believe it. Whether you're an athletic director, a principal, even a head coach, Hometown is going to show you how to save time, raise more money, and bring your community together. That's hometown.com. And as always, don't forget to mention the podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. Going all the way out to California this week, and we're going to be visiting with Robert Grasso. Robert is the assistant athletic director, he's also a football coach for La Jolla Country Day School. And we're going to hear all about that and more. But Robert, welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate the invitation.
Thanks so much. For our listeners, we're recording this on September 4th. Obviously, it's a crazy busy time for athletic directors and for football coaches, too. So let's jump right in. Robert, we always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us your quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up. For this segment, maybe take us up through your own college days, and then we'll take a break. But what's the Robert Grasso origin story?
All right, the origin story. Well, I was born in New Jersey. Both of my parents were born and raised and married in New Jersey, but I only lived there for a few years. My father's company sent him out west. So I landed in San Diego way back in 1975. And I went to elementary and middle school at this current school where I am working. So
Wow.
I have been on this campus for many, many, many years. I switched over to the local public school for high school, La Jolla High, and went to Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. for my undergrad work. Got my master's degree from Ohio University. Um, and here I am back at La Jolla Country Day where it all started.
Well, we're going to hear all about La Jolla Country Day in our later segment, but going back to that move, Jersey guy, and then now you're out on the West Coast, private school, all that. What are your memories of that move? Anything stick out for you in particular?
Uh, I was only 4 years old when it happened, so
Right.
it's all kind of a blur. But I do actually remember us landing at the beach in La Jolla, staying at a hotel, and thinking, this might work. This is awfully beautiful out here. So, and looking back on it now, I think more about my family leaving their roots and their family and moving all the way across the country and how brave that was. But at the time, I was just a little tyke, so along for the ride.
Yeah, no, definitely. It had to be, kind of a fun time. Wow, the beach. Yeah, I can get used to this. Um, Getting into school, let's maybe talk middle school or even the neighborhood. I'm older than you. You mentioned 75. That's when I graduated from high school. Uh, I still remember as a kid, in the morning, you're on your bike with your buddies and you're gone. And the parents, I jokingly say, they not only didn't know where you were, they didn't care where you were, that you were outside. What are some of your memories of growing up in the neighborhood?
That was my life exactly. Head on the bike, head down to the cul-de-sac where we had a wiffle ball field already set
Oh,
up and ready to go. Everyone had a different helmet from a different Major League Baseball franchise, and we would compete, play wiffle ball all day, and then truck on home when food was waiting for us. So yeah, those free days are a good memory of mine.
yeah. See, now I hear those wiffle ball stories again and again. And I grew up small town in Oregon. That was not part of our neighborhood experience. We had backyard football. There were, any hoop that we could find. We were playing basketball, but we never, my group, my neighborhood never did the wiffle ball thing. I feel kind of cheated because I missed out on
It
that.
was fun. We did a lot of football too, but yeah, you
Uh,
missed out on some good wiffle ball games.
oh yeah, it sounds amazing. Um, Moving on into, middle school, organized sports, and then you mentioned you went to the public high school. What are some memories of those times that you can share that, who knows, maybe even influenced you into becoming a coach and an AD?
Yeah, one of the neat things about La Jolla Country Day when I was a student here, and it continues to today, is that we do have middle school seventh and eighth grade teams. And so you play on three teams a year, everyone does. So every fall, winter, and spring, you're suiting up for something. So, I was able to play flag football, basketball, and baseball as a seventh and eighth grader. In addition to the local rec leagues and all that. So I was, immersed in sports, both in the community and at school. So yeah, I was a sports guy from day one. So that was heaven for me being able to play on multiple teams.
Now you mentioned that, and again, that was the way it was, of course, when I was in school, even into high school. There were very few, one sport guys. I think there was one guy, all he did was basketball, but he was an outlier. Everybody else was doing two and three sports. Um, did you have a coach? Did a coach ever come up to you and say, Robert, you shouldn't be playing baseball. You should focus on basketball year round. Was that a thing for you growing up?
No, that was definitely never a thing. I mean, I really didn't hear about athletes specializing in one sport until my professional life. And one of the things we really do stress here, our AD at La Jolla Country Day, he's a big multi-sport athlete guy. So that's kind of been a theme of our department for years. Still hard though. I mean, there's a lot of sports that we're battling to get guys to branch out and try something different.
Yeah, it starts with, the athletic director and then immediately right after that, the coaches. If the coaches are promoting that multi-sport experience, I used to have a school where I was the AD. I was also the head football coach. And our basketball coach would tell me, hey, I let them play football if they want to. And I go, no, no, no. I want you to tell them to play football, encourage them to play football. It's going to make them better basketball players.
Exactly.
So yeah, you got to have that leadership. Um, Looking back on the move, you said you made the move to the public school for high school. Um, I have no idea if that was the greatest or the worst experience of your life, but have you ever thought, maybe I should have stayed at La Jolla Country Day for high school? Have you ever had thoughts like that?
That's a great question. For me, no, I had an extremely positive experience in high school. Those were some of the best years of my life. However, I have a younger brother who stayed at La Jolla Country Day all the way through, and he had the same exact positive, amazing, wonderful experience. So there was never anything wrong with La Jolla Country Day. It was a little smaller back then. I mean, my graduating class, if I had stayed, would have been around 45 to 50
Oh, wow.
students.
Hmm.
Now we're about 120, 125 students in each graduating class. So we're still small, but not that small where everyone knows everyone else's business and there's just not as many people to be around. I was just ready for a new experience.
Right. No,
For me, it was the right choice. Turned out to be great.
right. And that we talk about that in college. You're looking for the right fit for kids. Certainly applies for schools. Let's go and talk about your college experience. You left the West Coast, went all the way back to the East Coast in Georgetown. How did that happen?
I was lucky enough to have parents who were super supportive of telling me, you can go where you want to go. And my two choices were UCLA and Georgetown, so I knew I couldn't go wrong with two unbelievable schools. It just so happened that a good chunk of my high school classmates were going on to become Bruins. And I just decided, you know what? I want to branch out, and I'm a little worried about just staying with the same crew and not having a unique experience. So, hard to say no to Georgetown. I'd never been to Washington, D.C. I don't think so. Just something new and interesting. So it was actually a tough decision, but one I'm happy that I made.
Now I'm showing my age here in my early onset senility. That would have been in the 90s. Georgetown still have some good basketball teams back then.
Yeah, we weren't not as elite as the '80s for sure. I was there during the Twin Towers days of Alonzo Mourning and Dikembe Mutombo. So those were some fun games.
Yeah, oh, I can imagine. Boy, that's very cool. Let's go and take our first break. Our guest today is Robert Grasso. He's the assistant athletic director, also a football coach at La Jolla Country Day School out in California. We're coming back with more. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Sideline Interactive indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. You've heard me say many times, probably one of the best purchases I ever made as an AD was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. We use it for home games, of course, but we also use it for pep rallies, for signing ceremonies. Their products are tremendously versatile and their customer service is just outstanding. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that live web demo today. We also want to say thank you to our friends at Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches, all of our coaches, just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our student athletes loved the videos, and our parents loved the streaming, but there's a whole lot more. Go to huddle.com, find out how they can really take your program to the next level. That's huddle.com. And as always, don't forget to mention the podcast.
Hey, Jake, just saw that ad for Huddle and wanted to jump in and mention that we're a giant Huddle school. We've got so many of our teams using Huddle for their film. And even more importantly, we love the way we can live stream. We live stream every event from inside our gym and on our field all year long through the Huddle fan program, and it's been a game changer for us.
Oh, that's so nice that you would say that. Talking about the live streaming, what's some of the feedback you've gotten from, parents or families or stakeholders about how that's impacted them?
Oh, they love it. They absolutely love knowing that if they can't make it to a game, that any of our indoor volleyball matches or outdoor football, soccer, lacrosse, everything's going to be live streamed and available. So they know exactly where to go. It's easy to find. And so yeah, it's been something that's really upped our game here at La Jolla Country Day.
Now, have you chosen as a school, have you chosen to monetize the streaming or do you offer that to your families free?
No, we go completely free. We just want to give them the opportunity to check it out. If they've got a grandma in Minnesota that wants to watch a football game, we want to make that happen. So yeah,
Uh,
no monetization for us.
I love it. I love it. Hey, let's get back to the interview. Our guest today is Robert Grasso. He's the Assistant Athletic Director at La Jolla Country Day School. Robert, we're going to hear about La Jolla Country Day in our next segment, but can you share your journey post college? You had a couple of stops before you got back to La Jolla Country Day. Share those with our listeners.
Yeah, I've had an interesting journey. I was a business student at Georgetown, um, and realized as time was going on that that may not be for me. Um, and my summers during college I spent at a real small elementary school here in San Diego, and I loved it. I just loved being around the kids, and as at first I did it just to make some money, but as the summers went by, it started to hit me that like, I really like being around students. I like the educational setting. And by the time I was ready to graduate from college, I realized that business or accounting was my specific major. That just wasn't for me. And education was the direction I wanted to go. So my first job was in elementary education. I was an assistant first grade teacher. That's how I got my foot in the door. And my first lead teacher position was in third grade. Again, that same small school. And eventually I popped over here to La Jolla Country Day back in 1999, still teaching elementary school. And one of the reasons why I came here was because I knew it had an opportunity for me to move up and work with older students, which was a goal of mine. So it was a gradual journey. I went from third grade to fifth grade to eighth grade and eventually into the high school. I was a U.S. history teacher, which I absolutely loved doing. So meanwhile, I was coaching. I was an assistant baseball and football coach throughout the entire journey at Country Day. So I did have my foot in the door with athletics, but I was in the classroom for years. Um, what happened was we had a lot of conversations as coaches. There was a lot of complaints about a lack of leadership amongst our student athletes. And it dawned on us after a while that, it wasn't the students' fault, it was our fault. We weren't doing anything to develop leaders in our programs. I was a team captain of a baseball team when I was in high school with absolutely no idea what that meant. I used to think that if I led the team in stretching, then maybe did a couple of rah-rah breakdowns that I was being a team captain and really didn't get much guidance beyond that. And we were doing the same to our players. And so what we started bringing in some outsiders to come give some talks to us on leadership. And then we started realizing, we could do this ourselves. We know our student body well. We know what the issues are. We know what the coaches' frustrations are. So I was given the opportunity to kind of spearhead starting to build a leadership program. And that's how I kind of got my foot into the administration side, because eventually I went to our AD, who's been here for over 20 years. He's amazing. His name's Jeff Hutzler, and he and I were super close. He was the head football coach for years, so I worked under him. And I finally went to him and said, "Hey, how would you like to bring me on as an assistant?" The program kept getting bigger and bigger, and it's a lot for one person to run at our
Oh, yeah.
school. The AD here has to be responsible for the PE department, which starts with our nursery school students at age 3 and goes all the way up. Middle school athletics, high school athletics. It's a big ask for one person. And so I basically gave him a pitch and said, how about bringing on a little help? So I started part-time. I taught 2 courses, 2 history classes, and worked part-time in the athletic department, and then eventually slid all the way into a full-time job. And ever since I've been, I mean, there obviously have lots of other duties, but the leadership part is really my baby. That's where my passion is, and the part that I really, really enjoy the most. And it keeps building every year.
Well, I love again how you wove that story, but also you kind of created the demand for your own position, through
Exactly.
doing a good job at all those other tasks. Was that, can you think back to that beginning where you started as an elementary teacher? Was that kind of a master plan, 2, 3, 5 years down the road, or did it just kind of happen organically for you?
That's a good question. A little bit of both. I mean, I didn't picture myself ending up in an athletic department, but I did realize that I was hoping to work with older students. And I loved the little guys, and elementary school is great, but I knew that wasn't going to be my career. And as I got into a high school position, I realized, this is a really good spot for me. And I really felt like I connected well with the student athletes. And so there really wasn't a master plan, but it just kind of it felt right and started to fall into place when I got into the high school.
Now, we obviously over the years we've interviewed, well, we're going up close to 700 ADs, coaches, and leaders,
Wow.
and I I always like to kind of ask this question for people like you, where you went to school, where you're now working, and you did take that break for high school, but when you came back as a teacher and then ultimately as a coach, um, what was the reception? Did you have some former teachers coming up? Oh, Robert, we're so glad you're back. Or was it like when I went back to my high school right out of college as a substitute? Um, my best friend actually became a teacher too, and we were both there subbing on the same day. We walked into the old teachers lounge at lunch, and here's all of our coaches, all of our teachers there, and the heads turn around. And I remember one of them goes, "You guys became teachers?" Uh, what was your reception coming back?
Yeah, that's a great question. There were definitely a solid handful of teachers still on campus that I had had. And remember, I was here from second grade through eighth, so they picture me as a little kid.
Oh yeah.
So for me coming back, it was like, whoa, what, I'm still not very tall, but what happened to you? And you've sure grown up. So that was more the response. Like in their mind, they're picturing, 8-year-old Robert
Li-
Grasso who first
Little
showed up on
Bobby
campus.
Grasso, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Wow, I love it. Um, on the, I'm going to save this for the next segment when we do all things La Jolla Country Day. Um, Looking back on, let's say, middle school days, seventh and eighth grade at Country Day, maybe high school experiences, even college at Georgetown, can you point to a moment? I'm a big moments guy that at the time in your life, it really didn't seem like much. But now, looking back with experience and wisdom and perspective, you can point to that moment long ago and say, hey, that was a significant moment for me. Anything stick out?
I think when I was in 10th grade, I had a JV baseball coach who honestly, I really didn't think about it too much at the time, but did everything the way I like coaches to coach. He treated his players with respect. He taught us how to handle adversity. He was super positive, but he held us accountable. And I don't think I realized it at the time, but this is the type of coach I wanted to be. And I actually still know him today, and so he had a big impact on me. But like you said, it was small at the time, and as an immature, 16-year-old, it really didn't hit me back then. And that also reminds me now that sometimes our students aren't going to totally get what we're trying to teach them at their age, but hopefully we're planting seeds that they'll reflect on later.
No, absolutely. And thanks for sharing that memory. I love it. I love to hear that stuff. We're going to take another break, but we are going to come back. Our guest again is Robert Grasso. He's the Assistant Athletic Director at La Jolla Country Day School in San Diego, California. Let's take that break. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to thank our good friends at Snap Mobile, particularly Snap Raise, for their support. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and been disappointed in the results? Well, I'm telling you, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. We used it at our school with our teams, and it was tremendously successful. Go to their website and check out all their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it, and it's Snap Raise. We also want to say thanks to Home Campus. Home Campus is the official sports administration platform for California, Florida, other states, thousands of ADs. And even if your state uses a different platform, you can still be a home campus school. I'm telling you, the athletic clearance and eligibility platform alone is a game changer. Go to homecampus.com for more information. And we want to say thanks to our friends at Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and let their team help you become a social media marketing guru. Maybe it's a small social media post to celebrate a victory, or it could be an entire newsletter to showcase all the great things that your athletic department is doing. The team at Gipper will have you up and running in no time. It's professional graphic design made easy. Go to Gipper.com for more information. And as always, don't forget to mention the podcast.
Okay. Just heard you talking about Gipper and wanted to jump in and mention that Gipper has become a huge part of what we do here in our athletic department. I was introduced to Gipper actually while I was a student at Ohio University, and their graphics have changed, really been a game changer for us. We put out promotional game day graphics for every single competition that we do in our high school. We use it for the college commitments and for results, all sorts of things. The graphics are great, super user friendly. If someone my age who is not very technically skilled can handle Gipper and make it look pretty good, then it's going to be easy for anyone to use.
Uh, that's what I say. Somebody my age, you're just a kid here, okay? But you are absolutely right. It is such an easy platform, and your return on investment, just spending a minute or two creating a graphic and then posting it, the feedback you get from the kids and sometimes the parents too, they just love that stuff. Do you ever get somebody coming up and, hey, you didn't post anything about our JV tennis match or something,
We
or
do. We do.
do the
We absolutely hear from our booster club about equal representation of all sports on campus. So I have to be very careful with my postings.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love it. Um, Once again, for our listeners, our guest today is Robert Grasso. He is the Assistant Athletic Director at La Jolla Country Day School. Robert, let's hear about your school where you spent so much of your life. Um, the enrollment, the scope of the programs, the success, and I mean success in any way and ways that you want to define it. Let's take a deep dive into all things La Jolla Country Day.
Of course. So La Jolla Country Day is an interesting school in that we start at age 3. We have a nursery program. Our mascot is the Tories, so we call them Tiny Tories. That's the entry point for 3-year-olds, and we go all the way through high school. So um, a little over 1,100 students on campus, but in the high school, about 120 per class. So a graduating class of 475, 480-ish. It's a really neat place. It's a place I sent both of my kids. Both of my children were lifers. A lifer is someone who starts in kindergarten or earlier and goes all the way through. Mine were both tiny Tories, so 15 straight years at the same school for both my children. I have a son who's a freshman at the University of Tennessee right now, and this is the first college is the first school he's attended other than Country Day since he was 3 years old. So it's pretty wild. Um, it's got a really neat family feel. Everyone looks out for each other. I mean, I've always felt so welcomed on campus, and even going all the way back to my days as a student. The facilities have changed a ton, but kind of the feel really hasn't changed too much. From an athletic standpoint, It's a neat program. I mentioned our AD, Jeff Hutzler. He's unbelievable. He's really built something special here. Some of the things I'm probably most proud of, one of our goals is to create a program that both caters to the high level elite athlete, but also one that is accessible for those who are just looking for a positive experience. So, for example, we currently have professional athletes that went here. Tommy Edman from the Los Angeles Dodgers is a grad. His dad is our baseball coach. Kelsey Plum plays for the LA Sparks in the WNBA.
Oh,
Tahina
yeah.
Pau's on the Atlanta Dream. So like at the high end, we have some very elite high end athletes. We also have a no cut policy, which means that anyone that wants to play our sports, who is willing to make the commitment and show up and work hard, then we'll create as many teams as we need to. So, for example, we currently have a novice volleyball team, and these are not future professionals, that's for sure. In fact, most of them will never play a varsity set of volleyball in their life, but they're having a positive experience. We have coaches who know their level, make it accessible for them. And so being able to appeal at the high and low end, and we offer a wide variety of options. We have a ultimate frisbee team that practices 2 days a week. So if you're someone who is involved in the arts or mock trial or debate and athletics is not your top priority, you can join Ultimate Frisbee, practice a couple times a week, have a positive experience, and then go move on back into your other interests. So that's one of the things I think we're real proud of.
Oh, again, that you're just speaking my language. My 20 plus years in Florida was at private and independent schools, and that's kind of the mission. Yeah, we're sending all of our graduates on to college. 99.9%. Some of them may play college athletics, but we want to make sure they have a great high school experience, and the no cut policy, adding more teams, multiple sports experiences. I just love that kind of stuff. Um, how is I think I probably know the answer, but how supportive is the school from a global perspective? How supportive is the school at um, hiring teachers, classroom teachers, who are also able to contribute as coaches or even as club advisors or things like that? Do you have a lot of coaches who also teach on staff?
That's a great question. That has been a major emphasis since I got here. And the majority of our head varsity coaches are classroom teachers. We truly believe in the teacher coach model. It's just so much more effective when they're here on campus all day long and they're seeing them in the classroom and they're seeing them in the hallways. And when I was teaching US history, when I had my football players in class, it was just another touch point to connect with those guys. And so yes, I would say over probably 90% of our head coaches um, are classroom teachers.
Again, love to hear that. We all know it's a best practice, all the things that you mentioned, building those relationships in the classroom, in the dining hall, on campus. And it's nothing against the off-campus coach. I'm sure you've had at your school, I had at my school, tremendous coaches that, worked in the community and then came to school to coach. But I think, we just love to see those on-campus coaches. Robert, we're going to do this also at the end of the show, but if one of our listeners wanted to reach out, kind of pick your brain a little bit more, find out how you do things at La Jolla Country Day, or just add you to their network, what's the best way that they can connect with you?
Yeah, let me throw out my email address. It's rgrasso, Grasso, at ljcds.org. Yeah, feel free to get in touch. I get coaches asking for information about our leadership program all the time, and I'm one of those coaches who's happy to share everything I've got. I will send you the slides from we do a 2.5 hour leadership workshop 3 times a year. I can send out the information, how we do that, how we structure things, whatever you need to help. I'm a true believer that we're all here to support each other. So if anyone wants to reach out and ask questions, I'm here for you.
Let's go and spend a minute on the student leadership program. How have you seen that grown from when first kind of proposed and introduced that, we'll say a couple of years ago?
Right. It started, more with a one big introduction at the beginning of the season. So, fall, winter, spring. But we realized pretty quickly that if you just do one big event to start the year, that the momentum is going to disappear as the year goes on, and it needs to be something that continues. So we start the season with a big workshop. We do it in the evening after practice is done. We serve dinner, and each team. So we just did ours a few weeks ago with our fall sports. Each coach basically can bring who he or she wants. Sometimes it's the captain, sometimes it's a senior, sometimes it's a leadership council. A few of our coaches bring their entire team, which can get a little crazy. But we spend the evening basically, we do two things. We spend the first half talking about what leadership looks like, giving them some basic guidance of what excellent leaders do. Um, and the second half, we have each team come up with we call them core covenants, their values for the year. They have to come up with 3 to 5 words that are going to define what their team is going to look like. What type of team do they want to have this year? What are their standards going to be? What are they striving towards? What are their non-negotiables? So, for example, our football team this year, where I coached, they came up with brotherhood, passion, energy, and selflessness. So now they're on the hook for those core covenants for the rest of the year, and they're going to hold each other accountable, and the coaches are going to hold them accountable. So each team then comes up with their core covenants, and then we spend some time talking about what they actually look like. What do they look like in practice? What do they look like in competitions? What do they look like in the hallways? What do they look like on the weekends when there's no coaches around? So um, that's how we start off, and then to keep that momentum going, I have an opportunity to meet with each team either once a week or every other week with their usually just the team captains or a council and their head coach, and we have lunch together. So, for example, this week I've met with football, volleyball, and field hockey. When this podcast is over, I'm heading over to the beach volleyball meeting, and I'll sit down with them today, and we'll have lunch together, and I'll ask them, how's your culture going? Describe how things are feeling in your team. Are there any issues we need to talk about? How are you doing with your core covenants? Do you have any teammates with needs we need to meet? Is anyone struggling? Is anyone struggling with their role? Is anyone struggling academically? Do we have a plan in place to help your teammates out? Do you have any questions for the coach now that we're in a more of a safe, private spot here on campus where you can talk about concerns you have or things you're hearing in the program that the coaches may not know? And so by having those touch points every week or two throughout the season, it's really helped us to kind of stay ahead of issues instead of drama building sometimes and becoming something that's hard to handle. We try to get in front of it, and it's a good opportunity just to give the team leaders some guidance. All that advice I wish I had gotten. That's kind of how I structure it. What do I wish someone had taught me when I was 17 years old and told to be a captain? So that's kind of the basics of what the program looks like, and the time spent is absolutely worth it. It's been something that I feel like has really helped change the culture of a lot of our teams.
No, again, I really appreciate you sharing those details. Very cool stuff. I actually did my CMAA project for the leadership group that we put together at the school I was at the time. Very cool stuff. Let's go and take another break. I know that's shocking to our regular listeners, but we are going to come back with more with our guest, Robert Grasso. He's the Assistant Athletic Director at La Jolla Country Day School in San Diego. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We'd also like to say thank you to Vital Signs Wall of Fame for their support of the podcast. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the different events, or show off your school's Hall of Fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and take a look at their interactive touch screen. That's right, touch screen video consoles. You put one of their units in your gym lobby or your main school hallway, it's going to be like a magnet for kids, for coaches. How about parents and sponsors? You really got to see it to believe it. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check out their great products today. We'd also like to say thanks to Hometown. Hometown is changing the game for schools and organizations with their suite of solutions that includes things like, well, big surprise, digital ticketing. They're still the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. But how about athletic website construction, fee-free fundraising, and a whole lot more. Whether you're an athletic director, a principal, even a head coach, Hometown is going to show you how to save time, raise more money, and bring your entire community together. Go to hometown.com to see all the things that they can do for you and your school. And we also want to say thanks to Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Now, I didn't get my master's from Ohio University, but my assistant athletic director did, along with thousands of others, and it was a great experience. It's very affordable, just 20 months, totally online. And while you're completing your master's degree, you also are completing 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Check out Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. You're going to be glad you did. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. Regular listeners know that one of our great sponsors is Ohio University. And Robert, you're actually a graduate of their master's program. Now, there's a lot of great programs out there in sports administration and athletic administration. Why did you choose the Ohio University program? And what are some things that you can share with our listeners?
Of course, I this was my third effort to get a master's degree. Um, I started at the beginning of my career, and I was up in Seattle at the University of Washington, and I got this great job offer and ended up back in San Diego. So that was take one that didn't work. And then I was getting a master's degree in history, and life got crazy, and my wife and I were having a baby, and that one didn't finish out. So I wanted that master's degree so bad. So I actually didn't get it until I was, you know, in my late 40s. I actually thought I was too busy. And when COVID hit, I realized this is a great opportunity to maybe get back to school. So to be honest, I just did a Google search as the best online athletic administration programs in the country, and Ohio was like the first one that popped up. And did some research, and it sounded perfect. It offered exactly the program I was looking. This is when I had first really realized that athletic administration was my future, and the courses were tailored exactly to stuff I needed to learn, and it was convenient, and the classes were great. And then after I went back to work full time, and COVID was over, it was still manageable. It's the type of program that I was able to have two kids at home and a full-time job and still get through the courses. So if you're looking for a program that really allows you that kind of flexibility if you're working full time, or you don't feel like you have enough time, it is doable. And I've actually already got one of my colleagues. She just got her master's from Ohio University in a coaching program, and she loved it. So I got another guy who's looking to do it now. So we got a little Ohio U pipeline going from our athletic department. So the program was great for me. It introduced me just to ideas about marketing and facilities management and budgeting and all great stuff that really needed to learn more about if I wanted to be an athletic administrator. So it was excellent for me.
I've had a number of people on who have shared their experience. In fact, you hear me in the shout out. My assistant athletic director at the McClay School in Tallahassee, he got his master's through the IO program, and they all say the same thing. Just a great experience. The the cohort environment, where you're meeting with the other people in your group, as well as the relationships, the professional relationships that grow out of that. Can you talk a little bit about that aspect?
Yeah, I think one of my favorite parts was just the opportunity to connect with like-minded future administrators and talk about, especially the ones that were currently working in schools. It was great to be able to pick other people's brains and hear, well, how do you do this, and how have you dealt with this situation, and what are you seeing at your school, and how do you handle these regulations, and so to be able to, I feel like in this job, like to be able to connect with others that are going through a similar experience is really powerful. And then the professors all were an athletic administrators. So it's not just teaching textbook information. It's experienced professional men and women who have been in the trenches and really know what it's like to be an AD.
Um, as you have now, you're kind of comfortably in your role, and I say comfortably from a professional standpoint, as an assistant AD. Can you look back to some of the projects or a course that you took through the Ohio program that, as you already mentioned, was just 100% applicable to what you're doing as a real life AD?
I think the one that was has been the most applicable and helpful for me was about branding and marketing because that was something I really didn't have much experience with. And one of my responsibilities in my current position is I run the social media, the Instagram account for our athletic department. I mentioned all the graphics that I'm doing on Gipper and making sure that I'm correctly branding our school. And that, to be honest, is really not in my wheelhouse. Like that was something I needed some more guidance on. And so the program really gave me a lot of good hands-on suggestions and made me feel a lot more comfortable doing that part of the job.
Well, again, really appreciate you sharing all that information, with our listeners. And again, listeners, you hear me say this on every episode. For more information, go to Ohio University and check out their online masters in athletic administration. Great program, really going to be worth your time. Robert, this has been pretty cool getting to know you. We've got some, common, people that we talked about, John Morrison from Francis Parker. But we're not done yet. We always wrap up with the athletic director's toolbox segment. So we're going to take our final break here from Athletic Surveys, who sponsor it. And when we come back, I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job, but I'm only going to let you put 3 tools in the toolbox. So let's take that break. And when we come back, we're going to see what Robert Grasso puts in his new AD toolbox. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thank you to Athletic Surveys for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment. At my school, we use surveys for just about everything, for student athletes, for coaches, for teachers, even for parents. And here's the cool thing, the information that would come back on these surveys, almost always over the top positive. I'm talking 98% approval. We still got to hear from those squeaky wheel parents, but the surveys allowed us to hear their concerns, usually address them before they turned into something big. But having that 98% approval data, incredibly valuable, especially when you're visiting with one of those frustrated parents, or maybe your principal, or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. And as always, don't forget to mention the podcast. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've been visiting today with Robert Grasso. He's the assistant athletic director, also a football coach for La Jolla Country Day School in San Diego, California. Tremendous background in athletics, but right now I'm going to challenge him to send out a brand new AD on their first job, but I'm only going to let him put 3 tools in the toolbox. So, Robert, what 3 items are going to go into your new athletic director toolbox?
All right, sounds good. The first one I was thinking about is I think it's very important for a new AD to have a very clear vision of what he or she wants the program to stand for. Same way we talked about coming up with core covenants or core values for a sports team, I think a department needs to do the same. I think you need to know exactly what your vision and goals are as a program. That way you can articulate it to your coaches and your community. It'll impact the way that you hire, and it will also make it much easier to have conversations with parents and community members when you know this is what we stand for and this is what we're going to stick to as a program. So I think a clear vision is very important. Number two, I would say, is get out of your office and get around campus and connect with people. I have found in my job that it's very easy for me to get attached to the laptop and sit at my desk for hours. And I have to condition myself to get around the campus and go connect with student athletes and connect with your coaches. There's kind of that sometimes as you go higher and higher in administration, you get less and less opportunities to connect with the students. And at least for me personally, that's why I got into this business in the first place. So, um, go make the rounds after school to each practice. This is what I try to do when I'm not coaching football during the winter and spring is I'll just wander through each practice, and it's amazing how often one of the coaches will come right up to me and just either want to say hello or share something or ask a quick question, and that visibility is really important for the athletes to see me out there. So connect with your constituents, move around the campus. That would be number two. Number three, I would say, is find a mentor. This is not an easy job, and you need someone you can bounce ideas off of. Hopefully, someone with AD experience. Someone who can help you. You're dealing with a new situation. How did you handle this in the past, or do you have any advice for me? And I've been really lucky in my position to have an AD working above me who's kind of seen it all, and so he's been a great mentor to me. And I think sometimes it can feel a little lonely at the top, and to have someone who you can bounce ideas off of is important. So those would be my three tools that I would give to a new AD.
Well, I love every single one of them. Mentoring is certainly one of our more frequently mentioned tools, but um, the vision, it's so important. And you're getting out of the office and connecting. That I think it's easy to fall into that trap of, getting behind the desk, getting behind the computer and just grinding away. But, making those connections, building those relationships with students, with coaches, sometimes even parents, just so critical. Robert, thanks again for coming on the program. Once again, if somebody that's listening wants to reach out and pick your brain a little bit or connect, and listeners, I think you got a great resource here. What's the best way that people can get a hold of Robert Grasso?
Yeah, go ahead and shoot me an email, rgrasso@ljcds.org. You can also find the contact information on our school website. And yeah, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to share. So sounds good.
Well, Robert, thanks again for sharing. All the best for continued success at the school, the fall and the winter seasons. Hopefully, we're going to see you and your AD in Tampa in December for the national conference. You guys going to make it out here to the East Coast?
I that's something I'm gonna have to go ask him. I haven't heard, so I'm not sure.
Well, the national conference is going to be in December in Tampa. All the information's on niAAA.org, so check it out. We'd love to host you in
Hmm.
Florida.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Okay. For our listeners, we want to say thanks to you and remind you that we upload the Zoom recordings of every interview to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this just about every day. We try to share stories and best practices from the world of athletics. So please join us again on the next episode of the Educational AD Podcast.